I'm Hayley, and today I'm going to be reading to you an excerpt from my novel The Boy from the Sea, which is out now on Amazon, Barnes & Noble and Waterstones. Chapter 22. I woke up on a beach I didn't recognise, though part of me was aware I was dreaming and not, in fact, awake at all. Perhaps it was more accurate to say I was having a nightmare. However, after I woke up, I wasn't sure if nightmare was an accurate description of the dream after all. Maybe omen was a better term, though I'd never been one to believe in anything superstitious before. So maybe it was just a nightmare and not harbinger of doom. A series of chemical impulses gone awry in my brain. That was most likely it. Probably. The sand between my toes was dense and damp, littered with stones and small twigs that pricked the soles of my feet. I was wearing one of those floaty, almost translucent white nightdresses that the heroines from Louisa's Gothic and historical romance novels often adorned. The material whipped around my ankles as a surge of wind pulled me forwards. I fought against it. Everything was dark. The moon and stars were covered by thick, ominous clouds, so I had to rely on my other senses to navigate my environment. In front of me was the sound of waves cresting and breaking on the shore, not very far away from me at all. Behind me I could hear nothing at all. I turned around, peering through the blackness. Was there really nothing there? Had my dream constructed itself only to exist in front of me, never behind? It was a disconcerting thought. My subconscious wanted me to move forwards, into the sea. I will not do it, I said, so quietly that the words were lost to the howling wind. So I screamed it instead. I will not do it! Silence followed my proclamation. The wind died in an instant, my dress no longer flapping and twisting around me, but instead obediently lying flat against my skin. I couldn't even hear the waves. Above me the clouds began to clear and the moon and stars were finally revealed. With them came an almost dazzling quantity of light, silvering the edges of the waves and making the sand glitter like 100,000 diamonds. My vision was swimming, simply trying to take in all the new visual stimuli, and it hurt my head, so I closed my eyes for a moment to ground myself. That was when I heard the voice. A familiar voice. A voice aching with longing and sorrow. Lear's voice. "Lear!" I called, opening my eyes and darting around the beach in frantic bursts of energy, desperate to find him. But he wasn't anywhere to be seen on the sprawling, lonely beach. And his voice was coming from the sea. Without another thought, I closed the gap between myself and the water, the bite of it not bothering me in the slightest as I stumbled into the waves lapping at the shore. Lear's voice urged me deeper and then deeper still, until the sea was up to my thighs and the wind sprayed me with froth and salt. "Lear!" I cried again, trying my best to focus on the exact direction his voice had come from. But the breeze grew stronger once more, carrying it around me until all I could hear were echoes and memories of his call built on top of each other in an endless loop. He wanted me. He needed me. Though I could make out none of the words Lear was saying, I was sure with every fibre of my being that it was imperative I reached him. It occurred to me, then, that although Lear always called me his siren, in my dream our roles were reversed. But no part of me could stop moving through the water in search of him, even as I acknowledged what sirens were supposed to do. Lear would never kill me. He wasn't luring me to his side to die. He needed my help. He needed me. A gust of wind blew through my hair, causing my scalp to tingle. I was up to my neck in the water, and yet that gust was somehow all I felt. The smell of the sea followed the wind, all dark, pungent, salty waves, strong enough to throw me to my doom. It was overpowering. Even as I struggled to reach Lear's haunting, keening call, that smell and the wind on my scalp was all that consumed me. A wave crashed over my head, filling my mouth and throat and lungs with singing, freezing water. But when I tried to cough it up, I simply ingested more water, and the current carried me further and further from Lear. No matter what I did, I was never going to reach him. And the sea was going to drown me first, dragging me down to its dark and unknowable depths. I woke up. My eyes flashed open, and I sucked in a breath to make sure I was still alive. Cold, feverish sweat coated my skin. I was too afraid to wipe it away. The salty air from my dream refused to dissipate. It was stuck in my nose, stabbing at my eyes and pulling me back down under. "Go away," I begged, turning on my side to huddle into a ball and try to fall into a decidedly dreamless sleep. But I rolled right into another person. Lear, finally home from the Union. I hadn't even heard him come in, and yet here he was, barely there breathing, telling me he was dead to the world. I didn't have to look at my phone to know it was very, very late. The smell of the sea wouldn't disappear. With extreme hesitation, I grazed my fingertips across Lear's arm. He was freezing to the touch, too cold to have been the result of walking back from the Union on a warm May night. He'd been somewhere else before coming back to mine, somewhere far away. When I nuzzled my face between his shoulder blades, I came to the stark but somehow not surprising conclusion that Lear was the source of the salt air that had woven into my dream and woken me up. The memories of his siren call, luring me to his side as the waves crashed over me, kept me clinging to him even though I so badly wanted to recoil. "Where have you been?" I mouthed against his skin, sliding my arms around Lear's chest to try and heat up his body with mine. "What did you do?" But Lear did not respond. He was lost to sleep, far heavier than my own had been. No person could sleep so soundly after doing something heinous. Right? I thought. It had to be true. Lear had simply gone on a miles-long walkabout. He'd been drinking, and it was so late. If he'd been wandering about for hours with no jacket or jumper rather than coming straight home, then that would explain his cold skin. And the salt... Well, sometimes the wind along the river blew from the west, from the coast. I knew this perfectly well. I could account for Lear's current appearance as easily as that. There was nothing to be worried about. Of course there wasn't. Inhaling deeply, I closed my eyes and forced my heart to slow down. It was in my best interest to go back to sleep. If I was asleep, then I couldn't worry that my explanations for Lear showing up late, freezing cold and smelling of the sea, were anything but the truth. Come morning, everything would be okay.